So Dana White has come out. He has revealed the lineup for UFC 304. And, I find it funny because, we were all expecting it to be Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. That's not a surprise. But I wonder how Amir feels knowing the fact that they offered Leon 3 different potential fights for UFC 300. And none of them were him. They offered him Shavkat, Hamzat, and Islam. I mean, even though prior to that, Dana said himself that Amir would be getting the title shot. Now, I know recently he's come out and been like, oh, I don't think that was true. I mean, right? I mean, no way. Which, I would probably be doing the same thing in his situation because it's just a little bit sad. But, the truth is, Amir is a very, very good fighter. I don't want to be mean to the guy. His wrestling is very good. His striking is not terrible. He seems to be very strong in grappling exchanges, which I attribute to the transformation he went on through his career. You see, on the left was before he started eating chicken and doing push-ups. The right is after he started doing that. But, as far as early breakdowns go, this is a tough fight for him. I mean, Leon Edwards has shown to be extremely well-rounded. He's good with submissions. He's got great takedown defense. He's good at getting up after getting taken down. And, Amir, he needs to try to find a way to close the distance. And that's a serious problem because the gap between them as far as the striking goes is pretty significant. He's just way faster and way longer. And the thing he's so good at is keeping you on the outside. Immediately after the Colby Covington fight, so many people, Lucas Tracy included, came out and were like, oh, well, Colby clearly fought so scared and that's why he lost. Wow. He didn't fight scared. He could not get on the inside without Leon punishing him terribly. Throughout that entire fight, it was happening over and over and over again. Now, Colby tried to get his game going. What he wants to do is be in your face, overwhelm you with punches, and mix the takedowns in. But he could not execute that against Leon. Every time he moved forward with strikes, he was getting punished badly. And in the one round we saw between Leon and Amir, it's kind of what was going on. Belal was having a real hard time closing the distance. Leon was managing the space between them very well. He was catching him on the end of his punches. The few times they got into the clinch, which it was Leon who engaged, he wasn't able to do a lot with it, and Leon landed his signature cross-to-head kick on him, and he had Belal pretty hurt. Of course, Amir is the better wrestler, but he's not better enough to impose his game onto Leon. While on the flip side, Leon's striking is better enough that Amir will not be able to handle it. So, with all that being said, I've got Belal by decision. And then the co-main event, we got Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blaydes. I feel so bad for Tom. At this point, they shouldn't have made his fight against Pavlovich for the interim title, especially if the UFC knew that Jan was going to fight Stipe anyway after. That completely defeats the purpose of what an interim title is. I mean, the truth is, the UFC, they needed somebody to save the card. They did not have a main event, so Tom Aspinall, on 2 weeks' notice, went against Pavlovich, who had been in training camp for a fight he was supposed to have that same night. Tom saves the day, wins the interim title, and the UFC is like, oh, by the way, that actually didn't mean anything. We just needed it to sell more pay-per-views. You're not the real interim champion. Like, it's not. That was all make-believe. Like, we just needed it to trick you and to trick the audience into paying for the pay-per-view because, like, you're not, John isn't going to fight you after. He's going to be fighting Stipe. So, you're not, we're just going to give you the belt and we're going to pretend you're the interim champ, but you're not the interim champ. I mean, if you want, you can just sit out and wait while John recovers, which should take about 8 months. Then he needs to get into training camp. So then once that happens, we'll schedule the fight with Stipe. That'll happen. They'll take a few months off. And then we can announce you to be the next guy to fight him. But, if you do that, you're not going to get paid. So you can't. So it doesn't mean anything. And we lied to you. That is what happened. That is what we're dealing with right now. So I really feel for Tom, but, the good news is he's fighting Curtis Blaydes, who is so close to being an elite fighter, yet so far away. I mean, he's got all the skills to be one. His striking's not bad. He's got very good wrestling. He's a very large guy. Going back and watching Blaydes fight against Pavlovich, I was surprised to see he was catching him with some decent right hands as Sergey was trying to close the distance. But the problem he ended up running into in that fight was the same one that he's faced throughout his career, and that is getting knocked out. I think the big issue there, it's his movement. He can get pretty stationary, he's not super elusive, and because of that, he ends up eating a shot full power. And when you're fighting at heavyweight against guys like Francis Ngannou, Derek Lewis, Pavlovich, and now Aspinall, that's going to be a problem because Tom is a 260-pound welterweight. He's so fast. He mixes it up so well. He's going to have a really hard time trying to get the timing down on Aspinall's speed. And then there's how varied his attacks are. He'll throw calf kicks. He's constantly feinting and moving and circling. And he is going to get tagged at some point, and we all know how that goes. But now, moving on to the fight that to me is the most interesting fight on this entire card, Paddy Pimblett versus Bobby Green. Now, I will be honest, I was slightly upset we didn't get Paddy versus Moicano. But, to be fair, that would not have ended well for Paddy at all. I don't think that's a competitive fight. Just the other day, the UFC did one of their Fight Pass Invitationals, which is a huge grappling event they do. And Moicano went against a guy who, I'll be honest, is a bit of a ghost online. I really don't know how good he is. He certainly is not an 80cc level grappler, but still, Moicano took him down, was able to pass his guard, get to mount, win the match, and I respect it so much because usually when a notable MMA fighter has a grappling match, they just throw temper tantrums about their opponent pulling guard, which is really just covering up the fact that they cannot pass their guard. They know that for a fact.
Don't just start the match on your butt. That should be deducted a point right out of the gate. Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
So, a big amount of respect to Moicano, but what we did get for Paddy Pimblett was Bobby Green. And what is so fascinating about this matchup is it is really difficult to get an accurate prediction down for how this fight's going to look because there's a lot of elements to these guys' skill sets that are going against each other. Without question, Bobby Green is going to be the slicker, faster, more skillful striker. Paddy Pimblett strikes like all he has ever done for training is hit the heavy bag. No matter what, his chin is right up in the air. He has zero distance management. Against Jared Gordon, he was clearly way taller. He had a way longer reach, but he was paying no mind to maintaining distance between them. He would just lunge in with these flurries, and he kept getting countered over and over again. But Paddy, without a doubt, is a very good athlete. He's very fast, and he clearly hits very hard. And Green, because he is 100% reliant on head movement, he gets tagged. He is very, very good at slipping and countering, but every single time he does it, he risks getting hit and getting hurt, and because he does it every single time, he does get hit and he does get hurt. So as far as the striking goes, like I said, Bobby is going to be the better, more skillful, faster striker, but all he needs to do is get tagged once and he's hurt, and Paddy Pimblett will certainly wing shots at him. But at the same time, given Paddy's chin is always in the air, and since Green is going to be the best striker he has ever fought, there's a lot of danger for him here as well. The thing is though, Paddy Pimblett, his A game is grappling, without a doubt. But weirdly, we haven't seen it much in the UFC. When Paddy was fighting for Cage Warriors and he was fighting a guy who was a better striker than him, he was looking for traditional singles and double legs and having a lot of success with it. But for whatever reason, in the UFC so far, he's really moved away from it. He did hit a decent Haraya Goshi once, but other than that, he's the one getting taken down. He did do a lot of grappling against Tony Ferguson, but that's because in round 1, he dropped him, and that's how they got to the ground. In round 2, Tony slipped throwing a head kick, but round 3, he was gassed, he unloaded a lot the round before. Tony was starting to pressure him, so he grabbed the single leg and then took him down, and that was his first traditional takedown we've seen in the UFC so far. Now, Bobby Green's takedown defense, it's not bad by any means, but Paddy is more skillful on the ground, without a doubt. But God, I do not know if it's going to end up there. It should. Paddy should be looking for takedowns in this fight, but I do not know if he's going to. And again, that right there is what makes this matchup so interesting. There's just so many uncertainties. And I do not know what's going to happen. I'm being honest. I really do not know. I think the safe bet is Paddy. He's going to be the favorite. I can really see him getting pieced up on the feet. I can see him landing a big shot on Bobby and knocking him out. I can see Paddy really hunting for takedowns. I can also see him not doing that because he just hasn't in the UFC. So I don't know. What is going to happen? No, I'm asking you.